Well, Greg, coming off of the LAFC game, what's it been like here for the 2 days, I guess?
Yeah, guys, just like every other game, getting turned around physically, just getting recovered, then starting our preparation for San Jose, which is another important game at home and another rival match. So, yeah, I mean, guys, obviously disappointed in the result, but the season moves on. At the end of the day, it was another game, and now we have opportunity at home to reverse the fortunes and get a W.
To bring the kind of energy that you had against Montreal, to bring that out every game, what do you guys need to do, and is that doable, or is this something that's just going to wax and wane regardless?
No, I mean, I think bringing out a proper level of intensity is important to every game. Every game is a little bit different, you know. It also depends on how the opposition plays you, how they come out. I thought the LAFC game had a lot of intensity at the start. It was a little bit messy, a little bit back and forth. Both teams making some mistakes in possession and at times playing a little bit direct, just to, I think, try to establish themselves in the game and maybe get the first goal. But, you know, I think for us, it's, again, to try to establish the right intensity at the beginning, the right speed of play, get guys, you know, sprinting, covering ground, moving as a group, all that collective movement. So that'll be objective again tomorrow, and that's been our discussion for the last week, as we need to maintain the intensity that I felt like we had going into the international break. And then coming out of the break, a few issues with guys not feeling physically great and us being apart for 3 weeks. Some of our guys, we just didn't hit the ground running when we came back from the break, but I thought the last 2 games from an intensity standpoint have been better. Obviously, it didn't. We made 2 bad mistakes in a very short period of time in LAFC, and then you're up against it. But tomorrow is a different game, and it's a different opportunity, and we'll come out ready for that one.
What do you see in San Jose?
Yeah, I see, again, a team that just, they're collective, they stay together. I think they have a good sense of just who they are in terms of they're going to do the work, they defend well as a group. They still see some tendencies of man-to-man around the field. I don't know if that's intention or if that's just habit, but you still see some of that. You know, they still have some players that can hurt you. Obviously, Bobisi is getting goals, and I've always liked Espinoza as a player. Komanic is a nice young player that has given them some stuff. They've got worker bees in the midfield. Montero is a guy that I've liked. He was out obviously in the last game, but I suspect he'll be back in. So I think they have players that can hurt you. They have conceded quite a few goals, so they're gonna, you know, there's a possibility they can make mistakes, they can get pulled around, things like that. But every game in this league is difficult. That's first and foremost. Anytime you play again against a rival of sorts, it's also a difficult game, and so nothing can be taken for granted, and we have to come out and we have to play at our best, and that's our challenge anyways, is to find and set our standard on a consistent basis. But they're a team that certainly can get a result, and that's just like anybody in this league.
Has the intensity of the LAFC rivalry, has that diminished this one at all, or do you still consider this a major rival?
I think it's still a rivalry game. I don't know if it has as much juice in it as the other one right now in this moment in time, you know, for whatever the reason, proximity or anything else. But it's still there. It's still a California derby. It's still a very important match. It's still important for our fans. That's all important. But for us, most importantly, it's important for 3 points right now, because the standings are tight. Everybody's close together. We're still just hitting the mid-season points, so there's a lot of season. But all of these games are important, and that was a lesson of last year for sure for this group, which is everything. Every game matters. Every point matters.
Going back to your playing days, you have memories of certain things from this rivalry?
Yeah, I mean, good and bad. I felt like always these games were super intense. You know, especially when you played up at Spartan Stadium and it's tight and the wall's like 4 yards away from the sideline, and you feel like people are on top of you. And they were a very direct, with the ball in the box kind of team, and so it was always a highly competitive match. I mean, one of the memories just on a personal level is I scored my first goal at San Jose, coming off of playing at the Sacramento Scorpions the night before. I drove over because Lothar said somebody was injured and he needed me to dress, and I got into the game and, believe it or not, scored the game winner. So that's obviously a big one for me personally. But again, a lot of battles. There was the 2001 championship game was not a good memory for us. You know, we were up 1-0 and end up losing in overtime late on a De Rosario goal. That one it burns me, because as one of 3 championships that I didn't win as a player, right? So there's certainly moments and a lot of them just competitively over the years with San Jose that for me are special. But but for this group, we need to be focused on the here and now and getting things done with us.
Does that championship game loss, does that sting more than the 4-0 they come back aggregate loss?
I wasn't here for that one, so I wasn't. I was away. Fortunately, I was away. I was in France when that one occurred. But that was a big one. I just remember watching it from abroad and just seeing kind of the tempo and the momentum just shifting rapidly. So yeah, I would imagine for guys who were here, that was a tough one. But the final for me was by far the most difficult of our losses against them, I would say.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Well, I want to ask about Costa and how he's looking, ready to go, and what are you looking to get from him that you haven't seen yet?
Honestly, he looks great. One of the things I think we really had to do is sort of diagnose where he was physically when he got here. There was, I've said this before, a little bit of an underestimation of maybe his, what's the right word? The impact of some of the injuries he had in the past, right? So he had some deficiencies in an ankle strength and hamstring strength and some of these things that they leave you vulnerable when you try to really accelerate and push and do things at a high speed. You become vulnerable for more little injuries. And so taking a couple steps back over the last few weeks, month, to work on his ankle strength, to work on his hamstring balance, to work on some of these things. To me, when I watch him play now, he is super dynamic, super sharp. We see a lot of the things that we've seen from him. A lot of things have been on smaller fields just because of the numbers and because we've gone from game to game. So I just want to see him continue to do that on the bigger field. But what I've seen from him in the last week and change since he started to really feel good, I'm super optimistic and bullish about what he can bring for our team. Again, just want to see it over the course of a longer stretch of the game, so it's getting his match fitness up, but also just being able to have impact on games on a consistent basis, which talent-wise he's certainly capable of doing it. And I also think his integration in the group over the last couple months, maybe because he just feels better, has been better. His connection with the players has gotten better and things like that. So again, when you come and you don't feel well and you're trying to do something that maybe you physically aren't ready to do, that can leave you in an awkward place. And I think that's a little bit for him, how he felt. And now I feel like he looks good, he feels good, he's integrating nicely, and he's producing inside of the training session. Now we need to take that into the games.
Is with him coming back at a better strength, does that kind of play into your decision with 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1?
Well, that's some consideration. I think I think with each system you get things and you lose things, and so depending on what we need in a day, depending on who's in the best form, depending on what is the best version for our team, those are things that we can kind of use. So we'll not play with that, but we'll look and we'll see. And as guys continue to show what form they're in and how they can impact games, we're going to put our best group in the best way on the field as many times as possible between now and the end of the season. That's the objective.
In the 4-4-2, when you've got Dejan and Chicharito up top, two strikers who aren't necessarily guys who create for themselves but can get on the end of things. What are the difficulties with that, and is there a way around it, or is that just part and parcel because of the type of players that they are?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's positives and there's challenges to all those things. I think still being able to create the right overloads in midfield to be able to try to create the right attacking scenarios for them to be successful. Otherwise, you just become very much a counter-attacking team, and you're just trying to open up space and get them the ball as early as possible and as advantageous of positions as possible, and hope that they can score. But with two forwards, I think that's part of it, and because you lose a little bit of that third midfielder sometimes unless you bring them in from an outside position or stuff like that. So these are things that we have to, depending on what the rest of our group looks like, that we have to play with a little bit if we're going to play with two strikers. But we have been able to be goal dangerous. We have put some things in the back of the net, but there's also a counter to that, which is being able to defend with two forwards, right? So there's a lot of things here that find the right balance. Is the shape a diamond with two forwards? Is it with 4-4-2? There's a lot of things. So we feel like it's something we can use. Whether we use it every single game will remain to be seen. That's a selection process for me, but it's certainly something that we like at the right times and in the right setups.
And lastly, the new guy, what's the situation with him?
Yeah, Gaston should hopefully be here by the end of this week. The approvals for visa and all that have been, I think, granted. So he just needs to do his appointment, which I think is today or tomorrow, and then the process is underway. So hopefully he'll be here before the weekend. Doesn't mean that he'll necessarily be involved in the weekend, but hopefully he'll be here for the weekend, and he'll start preparations from here going forward. Fitness-wise, he's in a really good spot. He's been doing a lot of work there and producing, kind of showing us what he's been doing. So we feel like he's in a good spot physically to come in and start training and get himself ready to play. So we're looking forward to that.
Do you know how you're going to use him, or is that going to be decided once he gets here and you're able to?
Well, he'll play in the midfield. Yeah, he'll play in the midfield. He's a 6. He played 8 for Oviedo last year and had some goals. He's a well-rounded player, smart. Played as a 6 for Parma and Serie A, so he's capable of playing different roles. When we get him in, we'll see how the pieces fit with our group. But we know he can play as 6, and we know that also he could have some freedom and move within the game a little bit as well. So we'll get that situated when he gets here.